Hello Flosstube, my name is Bonnie Log Cabin Stitcher. I want to take the time to introduce myself to you since this will be my very first Flosstube video, tell you why I chose the name Log Cabin Stitcher, and show you some of my past cross stitch projects from the 80s and 90s, why I am just a lover of needle and thread. I'll show you some of my projects that I've worked on. And at the end, show you the beginning of my considerable cross stitch haul, because I jumped in and I jumped in hard once I found Flosstube. So I chose the name Log Cabin Stitcher for two reasons. I am a stitcher and I have been stitching since I was a child. This was something that my sister found for me from when I was a kid, and my very first stitching, and then I even have the project left with my little needle in there. Look at that. But you know what? I was thinking, oh, those are really cool mushrooms, though. I'd love to do embroidery on those now. And I am a little bit better than I was at that time. But my sister and I have always done stitching projects along with my mother, because she taught us so much how to have fun and how to live simply with the joy of needle and thread. So it's always been a part of our life. And just different stages, you know, everybody has different things that they kind of get into in and out of life. So that's part of what I am, is just a stitcher. Then I love quilting now, and I love the log cabin block. So log cabin block, but my husband and I also own and are reworking on, I guess what would be the word, reconstructing maybe, our beloved 1947 log cabin in the little wild woods of the local San Bernardino Mountains. And we have had that for 30 years. This year was our 30-year anniversary, and it has had many ups and downs, a great number of series of unfortunate events. And part of what I have in my life, my theme, is that I want to be positive. I really, really love natural health. And so I like to have that concept of joy nevertheless, just to choose joy and to not focus on the negative, because not where I want to be, and just choose joy, and joy comes in stitching as well. So some of the very beginnings of my processes as a cross stitcher was in the 80s. I got into cross stitching. I was probably 17 or 18, went to a local craft store, saw a cross stitch chart. I can still picture it in my mind, and I hope I still have it in my Christmas box, but I think I don't anymore. But it was a little mouse, little tiny cross stitch, and I just thought, oh my gosh, I got to do this. And so I just got the book, taught myself how to do it. It was that handy dandy Ada cloth, and it made life very easy, but I loved it. And I know I have one of our first Christmas ornaments. We got married in 1983, and I know that's one of the ornaments that I kept. I think I got rid of almost all my other cross stitch, because over the years I left cross stitching probably at the 2020, just got into a lot of other hobbies, but these are some of the ones that I kept and I love. I only have 3 items left that I know of to have around the house. I love strawberries, so this was something I probably tea-dyed that fabric. I am a lover of country and primitive looking, so I have a feeling that I tea-dyed that myself. This one, and I need to learn. I have been watching a lot of Flosstube. I have been immersed in Flosstube for a month. A month ago, I didn't even know it existed, and when I did and found out about it, I have been loving it ever since. So I need to refinish some of these. This is another one, and it's funny because we have these really simple frames, and I say we because when I got into cross stitching, I really I never wanted to work in an office. I never wanted to work 9 to 5. So I had the fun of working with my mom, and we would do these park vendor craft fairs. And so that's when I got into cross stitching. I thought, oh my gosh, I love it. I can whip it out. And I made it, and we would have these park sales. And then from that, I actually worked as a vendor full-time for 20 years. During the 80s and 90s, there was a high tide of the harvest festivals and vendor markets, and so I did cross-stitching, and I probably sold hundreds of simple cross-stitching projects. My husband would make those simple frames. We would sell those, get glass cut, and it was wonderful. Then I got into woodwork, and I became a woodworker and a designer, and I did tons of decorations. Christmas was my favorite. I loved miniatures, so I did lots of ornaments. And that was my life through the 80s and the 90s. And then I started homeschooling. I homeschooled for 12 years. I've got 2 sons and did the homeschooling thing. And then we hit like a financial speed bump, and I needed to get back to work. So the vendor fairs were just not working because the overseas market took over and you could get cheap stuff, and handmade was just not viable anymore. So I decided to go back to school, which because I was homeschooling, I needed to do online, and I needed to do it fast because I had someone that I knew was going to hire me if I can get certification. And so I just chose to do online accelerated learning. And these classes, it was a semester-long class in a 2-week time frame. So it was incredibly stressful, especially for a woman who is not techie, hardly knew my way around the computer, did not know how to upload, didn't even know what Word was. I learned fast. And my son at the time was a teen, and he really helped me. So I would homeschool in the morning, spend time with the kids in the evening, and then because they were a little bit older, from 7 to midnight, I would basically do school, my own school. Then I would get up in the morning and do it all over again. And a lot of women my age that go back to school love it. I am not one of those women. I hated it. I got all A's just because that's what I did, but I did not like the process. I liked some of the classes, but it was incredibly stressful. So I turned to stitching, but I didn't have much time. So I remember during one of those breaks where I had one day in between one class and the other started, and I picked up some stitching. At the time I did embroidery, and my older son walked through the room and he said, "Oh, Mom, you're stitching." And I said, "Yeah." I said, I've got a little break, so I'm going to do it. And I thought, man, this kid is so cool. He cares about what I do. And he said, "Oh yeah, you're a lot nicer when you stitch." And so that became kind of the joke for a while. But that's part of why I stitch and why I garden, because I love natural health, and I like trying to do the things that I can for my mental health that are positive and natural. And needle and thread, you know what, because I've been doing it since I was a child, it is totally a natural thing for me to do. So after the late 90s, I got out of cross-stitching, and I was the Kool-Aid mom. Besides being the homeschool mom, we had kids in our house, outside the house all the time. So I loved gardening. I've also gardened since I was a little. My mom taught me how to flower garden. My dad taught me how to do vegetable gardening. And I've had my hands in the dirt and fingers on the needle all my life. So I really did a huge English garden, spent all my time doing that, which, because I live in Southern California in the Inland Empire, that used a lot of water. We are no longer doing English gardening. I'm transitioned over to low maintenance native gardening. But that was my hobby for a long time. Then I can't remember really if I did any stitching, probably from 1999 to, I think I had a couple years where, because I was doing school, where I didn't do anything. And then about 2004, I went to visit my sister, and lo and behold, she had this embroidery project she was showing me. My sister and I love stitching, and so she showed me her project. This is mine because I, again, fell into it really hard. I'm going to try to show the lighting. I'm going to be learning a lot along the way on how to edit, upload, and do the lighting, but I know this is kind of harsh lighting, but I'm not going to mess with it. But this is my embroidery project. So I fell in love with hers. I got into it, and at the time it was very financially tight. And I thought, well, that's a cheap hobby to get into because I have a ton of DMC floss. So I thought all I need is a little bit of fabric, some patterns, and I am good to go. Well, of course, I went to my local needlework shop, which is still in business. I love it. It's Needles and Niceties in Upland. And oh my gosh, the overdyed floss. So I got a ton of overdyed floss, and I did embroidery, and I loved it. So what I liked about embroidery at the time over cross stitching was there was really no boundaries, because at that time I only did Aida cloth, and there's not a whole lot of variation that you can do on Aida cloth when you're doing cross stitch. So I loved kind of off-roading with embroidery, and I loved it, and did it for many years. And then my mom got into quilting, and then my sister got into quilting, and I thought, no, there's no way. I'm homeschooling. I've got my embroidery. I can't spend any more money. And I don't have any time anyway. And so I would see the quilt projects that they were doing. And oh my word, I just fell in love with it. And I thought, no, can't do it. So in between that time, I had some of my embroidery projects, and I wanted to learn how to put them in, because I had sewing skills. My very first job at 16 was in a fabric store, so I learned how to sew at 16. My mom taught me everything. So I learned how to sew, loved it, totally got into that, even made my own wedding dress when I got married at 19. It was not that exciting of a wedding dress, but it served the purpose. And so I really loved to sew. So I know my way around a sewing machine. And so I just wanted to learn how to take my embroidery projects, and if I wasn't going to frame them, how to finish them, how to put a border and binding on. So I went to a quilt shop and took a borders and bindings class. And of course, I was around the fabric and the quilt patterns, and so of course I got into quilting, and I jumped in hard, and I got in hard, and I love it. So that was, I finally let myself go, have that freedom at the end of 06 to get into quilting. And it was so much fun learning from my mom, who at the time was in Colorado. My sister was only about an hour and a half away from me, and just learning how to quilt. They would share their stash with me, because still financially challenged, but they would just share their stash. And I loved, and you can see behind me, I do the scrappy quilting, and I really have a joy of making as many different fabrics coordinate as possible. And as I'm looking at this quilt, one of the things that I did was each of these blocks had to have a different fabric than all the other blocks. So I love scrappy, and that worked for me as a beginning quilter. And now, of course, I've spent thousands of dollars on fabric. And so that's the way it is with hobbies, and I know how it is going to be again with me on cross stitching. I tried to resist, but Flosstube made it very difficult. So let's see what I still have. Let me share with you, because I still have this on my lap. This was the third project of cross stitch that I had from so many years ago. And this is one of my favorites for a couple reasons. One of them, I'm sure y'all can see what's wrong with this, but I was so proud of this, and I was showing my sister, and I said, look what I made. And she looked at it and she said, what's up with the Kens? And I looked at it and I thought, oh my gosh. I hadn't even noticed that it was off track, little, big, wonky, but that's like me. I'm off track. I'm wonky. And so I just love it. It's part of my decor, and I hope I will always keep this, because I love it. The other reason I love it is because of this. It is a very cool old frame. And when I got married, again, I was 19, going to school and working, and we got this little teeny tiny rental, my husband and I, and my mom and I went yard selling, and we bought things. I remember I still have a chair, a beautiful wood chair I bought at the time, totally refinished it. I've refinished it several times since then. Treasured memories, because my mom is no longer here on earth, so I have the memories of her and what she has taught, and who she is so much of an influence on who I am. And that was part of how I worked through that process of my life as well. And I've watched other stitchers and really connected with April, I think it's April, May, June stitcher, when her first Flosstube was just sharing about the loss of her mom suddenly, and then getting into stitching. So I know there's a lot of us out there that love to use stitching to work through our healing process. So that's me. The other thing I want to tell you is how I found Flosstube and kind of why I wanted to do this. And I'm looking at the time. I really want to keep these videos because I plan to do a lot of them. I have a lot to say and a lot to share and a whole lot of cross-stitching charts that I've bought. But I really would like to keep these just 30 to 40 minutes long. And my goal is to have one a week. So we'll see how that goes. My life right now, I'm a mobile notary, and so I do loan document signings where I drive, go to people's homes, sign with them in their house, and then go on to another one. So I work on call. And so I do not have a normal work schedule. But again, I never wanted to work the 9-to-5 job, so I definitely am not working that right now. So we'll see how it works with my schedule. But I found Flosstube through just a desire that I had to reorganize my sewing room. I love organization. I don't necessarily like to be neat and tidy, but I like organization. I like little plastic boxes and cool things to help you be organized. So I had a friend over for my birthday in July, and I went to show her something. She's a quilting friend in my sewing room, and I was like climbing over piles to get to something. I thought, oh, this is ridiculous. Enough is enough. So I was just gutting it out, reorganizing it. I do it about once a year. And I happened across, I was searching for different studio tours, sewing room tours. I happened across Lori Holt. She's a fabric designer, pattern designer, amazing designer. And I saw her video. It was called My New Sewing Room. And I watched it a couple times because I was so intrigued with how she had her studio done. Her style is not my style. You can see behind me with this quilt, this is my style, traditional, dark, and hers is more light and vintage and farm girl style. I loved her organization, and I've used several of her ideas. So I was just, one night I just had some time and I wanted to just see, and I thought, oh my gosh, what if Joe Morton, and this is a Joe Morton quilt. I have tried so many of these #1 Flosstube videos. I can't remember. If I mentioned the quilt behind me is a Joe Morton pattern, and it's called Real Deal. And I know it was in a magazine a long time ago. I will be doing separate quilting videos, and I hope to do one this week. And this will be my quilt that I introduced because this was a big part of a certain stage of my life. And I love hand applique and hand quilting, and that's what's in this. So again, I'll share that later. But I just thought, Joe Morton, I love her. What if she has a sewing room studio? Because I know hers is smaller. And I searched and I didn't find Joe Morton, but what I found was Shanda Quilting in Idaho. And she was just sharing, her video was called Missouri Star Quilt Company and Joe Morton. And I saw it and I thought, oh, I don't know you, but I'll check it out. And I could see in the background of the little thumbnail that she had that she was in her sewing room, and it was my colors. It was beautiful. So I just clicked it. I was settling down to bed, just needed something calm to watch. And so I watched it, and I'd never seen anything like it. It was a half-hour long video simply of her sharing her haul that she got from Missouri Star Quilt Company, sharing a book of Joe Morton's that I have and I love. And I watched it, and after it was done, I had two thoughts. One of them was, I could do this. I would love to do it. I want to do it. And then I thought, where am I going to do it? Who's going to watch me? And then the other thought was, my goodness, I feel like I was just a friend sitting in this woman's studio, just talking about the things that we both love. And it just felt so comfortable. But I thought, I've never seen anything like this. Then I started watching more and more of the videos on her channel, and I kept seeing Flosstube, and I thought, Flosstube, I know it's not dental floss, so it must be embroidery floss. But I thought, again, I'm not into cross stitch, and I've not done any embroidery for a couple years. And so I thought, I'm into quilting. So I watched all her quilting videos, and then I was intrigued. And so I watched one of her Stitch Mania Flosstube videos, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is really cool. The patterns she was showing, the project bags. I love the project bags because it's organization. And I love the patterns that she was showing. But again, I thought, no, I'm not cross-stitching anymore. But it was just fun to watch. And then I watched another one, and then another one. And then I started thinking, oh, that's cool. But nope, I don't cross-stitch anymore, and I don't need a new hobby. And then I started looking at other people's Flosstube videos, and I found Lori. Mischievous Stitches, and I started watching hers, and her style was similar to what I did. She was doing quite a few birds at the time, Cooper, and she also showed one, I wrote it down, Fractor Bird. She did a pillow, and I watched that, and I thought, oh my gosh, I love birds. I adore birds. And I thought, I gotta do that. And then I started looking around, and I saw, I was looking at prices, and I thought, no, girl, what are you thinking? You do not need another hobby. So I clicked back, watched the rest of her video, enjoyed it, watched some more. So then, lo and behold, she had another one where she showed Beggar's Night. And do I have it? Yeah, it's towards the bottom of my pile because that is in my haul. That put me over the edge. I put Lori on hold or pause. I went over and I bought it. Who is the designer? Threadwork Primitives. I love buying from designers because I had 20 years as a designer of woodwork. And so I bought quite a few, and then I had those shipped and they were on my way. So then I went back and finished watching Lori's video and watched several more. So I just thought, all right, I'm in, but there are some terms that I had no idea what they are. I learned about whips and I just thought, wow, these ladies are kinky. But then of course I knew it's works in progress and just heard some things, learned some things. I loved the finishing and I loved the idea. In quilting, we have the term UFO, unfinished object. And so I have a ton of UFOs. That's why I was not going to do cross stitch because I need to finish up my quilting projects. But UFO, unfinished project, seems almost like a negative thing. And I know it's all on how you think of it. So I really thought the word whip, works in progress, that was cool. That was more on the positive thing. And I certainly have a lot of those as far as quilting, but now only one cross stitch whip at the moment. So that was fun. But I learned about 1/2, 2/2, and I thought, wow, what does that mean? 1 stitch and then 2 stitches. So I went to, again, the local needlework shop, Needles and Niceties, and I was just looking at the patterns and looking at the fabric, and he explained to me what 1/2 and 2/, no, what is it? I still am new. 1/2 is what I'm doing. So my first project that I'm doing is 36 count linen because I had done the Ada, and I probably will in the future, especially because I've seen some beautiful hand-dyed Ada cloth. But I really, if I'm going to do it, I wanted to get into the linen. And so right now I'm doing 1/2 on 36. I think it's hand-dyed linen. So that was really fun. What else do I want to share with you? And what time is it? 22 minutes. How am I doing? Okay. So as I got into embroidery, this is what I did because, again, I was not going to get into cross-stitching. So I would go to that local needlework shop and I would see patterns and I would get a cross-stitch pattern because they're cool. So this is a Lizzie and Kate. I don't know if it's still available anymore. It's Winter ABCs. I got that, but I thought, I don't cross-stitch anymore. So what do? I do needle punch. So I needle punched it. And again, this lighting is really bad. Oh, that's a little better. So I needle punched it and I love it because I love needle punch. And I have a different frame. I put these in different frames. I have a lot of seasonal things. And then I got the Lizzie Kate, what is that? Autumn ABCs. And again, I'm going to be learning, ladies. I know you are a patient group. So Lizzie Kate, Autumn ABCs. And I needle punched it because, of course, I got into the hand-dyed. This is, I have a lot of Gentle Arts, so it's probably Gentle Arts, and I know this is also pearl cotton. So then, because I got into embroidery, this is a Lizzie Kate Christmas Is pattern, and I did it. This was the one that I took in my first one that I took that class for, so on the borders and binding. So this is my very first binding, and I've gotten better along the way. But I just simply took that cross-stitch pattern. I changed the tree, of course, and what else did I? Oh, and I added it because I had who was that? Bare Roots. I had a lot of her embroidery patterns, and this was Bare Roots around the edge. But this was just me taking a cross-stitch pattern and turning it into what I was into at the time, which was embroidery. And I will show those on another one. I may do a whole embroidery video because I have a whole lot that I have done and learned along the way. But this is another, I know, pretty sure this is still available. Brenda Gervais, And this is Peace on Earth, and it's again a needle punch, but this one is with my Valdani pearl cotton thread. So of course I love the overdyed, and that's also who I am. So again, that's why I'm Log Cabin Stitcher, because I do a lot of different stitching. Then I also do wool applique, and now I have a lot of wool. I have a lot, so that's why again I did not want to get into cross stitching. But this is my wool applique. This is Lisa Bongine Primitive Gatherings. It was a kit that I got because at the time I didn't have this many pieces of wool. Now I do, because I love it. And again, I love the hand stitching and handwork, and it's fun. So that's some of the stitching that I do. And ladies, you have a lot of Blackbird Designs, and I am sure you know, but Blackbird Designs does lots of quilt patterns and applique. So this is the Blackbird Designs that I have been working with for the past 20 years. Birds of a Feather. This is an amazing quilt that I have as either a whip or a UFO, depending on who I'm talking to. And this is just a sample. This was my first applique block. Good grief, I probably did this 15 years ago, and it's sitting with probably 20 other blocks. But this is hand applique, and this was the very first one that I did, so I can see some of my stitching, but just love it. And it's so cool because now I am so drawn to Blackbird Designs cross stitch, because they use a lot of these same elements and the same designs in their cross stitch. So that's what I do, and that's again why I'm going to have totally separate quilting videos, because that has been much of my life for the past 15 years. What else did I want to share with you? What else do I have on my lap? So since I decided, all right, I am all in with this cross stitching thing, I have totally immersed myself in Flosstube for the past month. My husband has been off work, I think maybe this whole month, and he's been up at our cabin. Like I said, it is getting totally restored, so he is totally redoing the bathroom. So he's been up there. I go up there and visit him when I'm not working, and I haul stuff up there. I'm choosing all the tile and everything and taking it up there. But I've had a lot of time at home. You know what, and it's funny, I don't even know how to turn the TV on because I don't watch TV. When he watches TV, sometimes I'll go in with him. So he's the front room guy, I'm the sewing room gal, or out in the garden. So I sit in my sewing room and I watch YouTube usually. Once in a while Amazon Prime, but you know what, there's not a whole lot out there that I'm interested in. That's why I loved the Flosstube world, because it was so much that I wanted to get into. So I have been immersing myself in Flosstube. So of course I'm seeing charts, and then I put people on pause and I go and buy the charts. So I have a lot of haul that has already arrived that I'm not going to do in this video because it's mostly that introduction. But I also thought, oh my goodness, I need to figure out my way around embroidery and cross stitch again. So I have this pattern that I got quite a while ago. This is a Chestnut Junction, and it was a PDF download. So this is like my style. I'm not going to finish it this way, but I loved, because I like seasonal, so I loved the fun simplicity depth of that pattern. So I thought, oh my goodness, I better start doing it again. So here's something that I learned. When I'm seeing you ladies that have your floss on the rings, I thought, oh, that's cool. I have a total different way of organization, and I'm going to share that with you on another video, because I do like it. It's a really neat way of organizing all in one entire area. Easy to get to too. But the reason that I have mine off of the card is because I found out the hard way, when you get floss wet, it bleeds, and it bleeds all over something beautiful. So I cry. And I called my sister and I said, what the heck do I do? Because she was doing the embroidery before me. And so she told me about a product called Retain, and you get it wet. So again, my flosses are going to be a little bit, they've lost some of their color, but I did not, at the time, I was not going to do cross stitch where you don't get it wet. I was doing embroidery, and I'll show you why my stuff gets wet, but my flosses will all be a little bit faded. So now the new flosses, and of course I've got new flosses, I will not use that product on it because I am going to learn, I'm going to learn how to do embroidery without this. So this is the blue. We in the quilt world use this as a blue. You get it wet and it goes away. So some markings I need to use this. I've used this for a long time, this particular one. Actually now I found a new one that's very good too. But anyway, the blue marking pen, you have to get it wet to go away. And I kind of, just like that chickens and eggs, I off-road. So sometimes as I'm tracing the pattern, I get messy and I think, you know, it's fine because I'm just going to get it wet and go away. And then I realized my eyes have changed over the years and I'm going to unstitch or totally redo this one and remark it out, because now I have learned that this is a new way of doing it. So this is the Pigma Micron Pen. So any of you ladies, you probably already know this, but the Pigma Micron 003 is teeny tiny tip. You wouldn't even be able to see it. That's the new way that people mark their embroidery. And I had seen that before, but I thought my hand is not always so steady. So here, ladies, I am looking for, if anybody's watching this video and could recommend a light box, I'm looking for one that's not incredibly expensive, but also not super cheap. So instead of using my window, where it's harder on my hand to get that perfection of stitching, or not stitching, of marking, I really want to get a light box, but there's so many options out there. But this is why all my overdyes are, I use the retain on just to help retain that color. But as you're doing that, some of the dye is gone. So again, I decided to do that so I can get back into it, and seeing that my eyes, it was harder to see, harder to stitch. And then I got a kit in the mail that I'll show you in a second, and I started doing a couple stitches and I thought, oh my word, I can't even see it. How are these ladies doing it? And I knew if all you ladies are doing it, I could too. So I'm a fighter and I figured out how I could do it. So here is my haul, and I want to finish this out soon and just have this as, this is me, but this is just a simple part of my haul. So this is Threadwork Primitives. This one is Beggar's Night, but again, I got two other ones too, so I'll show you that in a future video. But this one I would love to do because I like seasonal, so I know I will put it, I may do it as a pin keeps like this, or I may do it in a frame and just switch it out. I haven't decided because I haven't even started it. Then another thing that I got, because I love needle books, I got this off of, who is it? From the Heart. This is Camelot's Rose needle book. And you can see it's a needle book, but it has the ABC, and this is September. I am not doing any reproduction. I'm just back into the simple stitching of cross stitch. So this year, no reproduction samplers for me, but I do love samplers. And so I think for those of us that will be doing non-reproduction samplers, I think we would hashtag September sampler or sampler September. I got to figure that out. But I reopened, I have an Instagram account, so I'm Bonnie Log Cabin Stitcher. I probably only have 10 or 15 pins because I'm learning all this as I'm going. But I really want to do sampler September, and I think that this might work because it has the ABCs and that's kind of the sampler. But I also learned that instead of just using my stash of overdyes, some of these I really want, and so I ordered a couple silks that were recommended. What was the silk? Thread Gatherer Silken Colors. This is all new to me, so that's going to be coming in. I want to start that soon. But the perfect way for someone getting back into cross stitching after a long time, I felt, was to get a kit. I have always, in quilting, I have always wanted to do these block of the months or the kits, and I generally don't because I have a huge stash of fabric and I couldn't see buying a whole kit when I have a ton of fabric. But this was different. So I went to scattered seed samplers because I kept seeing a pattern called Out on a Limb Pinkeep, and I am a bird lover, and I wanted that pattern. I think I saw it on Saltbox Samplers. Yes, Saltbox Sampler. She had Out on a Limb Pinkeep, and I thought, I want it, and I searched for it, and at the time I couldn't find it. But then I found the designer, and again, I love buying from the designer. And so I went on, who is it? Scattered Seed Samplers Etsy site, and I signed up for, and I got, and I've started They're little Wren handwork, and it came, I love packaging, and I think most ladies do. Where's my package? I was so excited when this came in the mail. I really, really appreciate when shopkeepers send in this type of packaging, because our mail lady shoves it in our mailbox this way, and this really preserves it. So it came so pretty. It had that, but it came so pretty, and I love it. I love bird scups. And then it came in this, so it was like unwrapping a present. And because it started at the beginning of the year, by the time I signed up for it, there was already 2 patterns. So I'm going to show you the one, the number 2 one, which I have not started yet. But this is so cool for me, new, because it has the pattern. And again, this one is Skeptical Gatherings, Scattered Seed Sampler, and it has a kit. So it came with, and again, I am not short on floss, but really cool that it had the floss. It has the fabric. It even has a charm to make this, oh, I already tossed it, to make a scissor fob, but it had the over-dyed linen in there. So that was perfect, because I was very overwhelmed at first on ordering the over-dyed linen, but now I've ordered quite a bit of it, so I think I'm getting the hang of it. But here is my whip. This is the pattern. So this was the one that started it for me. Out on a Limb, Scattered Seed Samplers. So this was the number 1 kit in the pattern. And again, the charm comes with it, the ribbon, the fabric to put on the back of it. And I still have the stuff in here. I'm working from this. So I am using the DMC. There's just a part of it that I wanted to switch out the thread. So here is my first official cross stitch whip. But I found I wanted to do something different with the thread inside, and I tried floss, and I'm not happy with it. So I'm going to undo it because I really want this one to be, because this is going to be my first re-entry into the cross stitch world. I really want this to be exactly the way I want it, and I may end up going back and using the called for thread in the middle, but I wanted something a little bit more rustic looking. I love this, and it's been such a thrill. I started this, what is today? Today is Wednesday. I started this Thursday night, and I am so excited that I have made the progress on it. And I had to search because, oh my word, my eyes are not the same. I wear prescription lenses. I'm nearsighted. And I have learned a lot because I just started searching Flosstube magnifiers. I found Felicity Stitches. I love her, so I've watched a lot of her videos. And one of, I think she called it the Holy Grail of magnifying lamps or lights for her, I bought, and actually I have 2 because again, we have the place up in the mountains. So I have one here for me. It is working out perfectly, and I ordered one to have up in the mountains because I don't want to haul it back and forth. So again, I'm going to have a Flosstube video showing my setup. And again, I'm new getting back into it, but I found some really cool things that are working for me. And I know there's a lot of other ladies that just like to see that kind of stuff. So that will be on a future one. Have I shared everything that I wanted to share with you? Oh, here's something else new. I have watched Brenda at, what is, Handworkmaniac, I think she is. I'm intrigued with her boss daughter. I love that. But I've watched one of her stitching spot videos, and I loved the lap stand, but I thought, I need to see how I want to do. But because I always used a hoop, and I used a wooden hoop or a plastic hoop when I was doing it in the 80s and 90s, I just went to Hobby Lobby, I think it was, and I bought one of their higher quality wood hoops. It's not the highest quality that there is. It's working for me on this one. And then I found Needlebug, and she had a great tutorial just on how to stitch, how to start, how to stitch. Perfect for me as a beginner. But she also had one, and I think it was like Nuns, N-U-N-Z, or Nunez something, some kind of a hoop, and I found it on Etsy, and I think I'm going to order 1 or 2 because I need a smaller size. But if anybody is watching my videos and you know of a wooden hoop that you love, high quality, that can tighten well, I would love for you to comment on that. What is the company brand? What is the brand that you use? And here's some other things. I need instruction. And again, you know, I'm so used to going to my Quilt Guild before our life changed with lockdown and we could go to meetings, I loved my quilt guild because I would find these experienced quilters and I would ask them questions, and awesome. I love it. And the other reason I want to do these videos is I realized how much I miss the society of ladies who love to do what you do, and you're saturated in that realm and you talk about it, then you go out to dinner afterwards and talk about it some more. I miss that, and I know I've been watching these Flosstubes and I've been watching other videos, and you ladies miss it too. So that's where I just thought I would love to be a part of this community. I was so amazed at how uplifting and encouraging it is. I have been in a realm of other type of YouTube videos that I was watching, and there was a lot of negativity, a lot of just people going in and just doing foul comments, and I just thought, I don't want any part of that. I have not seen that a bit in this Flosstube. It's so positive, so encouraging, especially to newcomers. Instead of pushing us aside, there is this warm welcome, and I would just love to be a part of it. So I will continue watching. So many of you, I have subscribed to so many Flosstubers, and I love it, and I'm learning, and I'm thrilled. But if you guys would, if anyone would love to comment on what you wish you knew when you were new to getting into cross stitch, or as you learned how to stitch with old eyes on linen, I am loving this linen, and I love the old time look. The other comment was, what is your favorite gadget? I'm finding a lot of gadgets that I like, that I've tried and maybe haven't worked, but I would love to know, what is your favorite gadget that you use? And also, what is your favorite thread that you used? I did a comment to Lori of Mischievous Stitches, and she told me her favorite needle, which I think is Bowen. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but I have a lot of their other needles. But Bowen tapestry, and I believe it's number 28, because I really, really love fine, super fine needles, because I noticed I had a 26 tapestry and I went to use it and it made that hole larger as I was going through. And it's like, not what I want. So I went back to an embroidery needle, which that's not going to be, it has a sharper tip. So anyway, all that to say, please comment with some tips that you would love to share with not a newbie, but re-entering in this modern age of cross stitch in the linen. And I am just so thrilled to be doing this. Whether anyone watches or not, it's okay. I'm learning things, and I entered into a new stage of life a month ago when my youngest son moved out, and it's a super positive thing. It's a great he moved in with his older brother. He's renting a room from his older brother. So it's a perfect situation for him to be in. And as I was helping him take his a load of stuff to his new room, I was just thinking, it was an emotional day, because, oh man, I've really been looking forward to this, because I've had kids at home for 29 and a half years. They were 5 years apart. I have had kids at home for a very long time, and I'm ready for this, because he's an adult, he's grown up, he's awesome. Both of my kids are amazing, very trustworthy, so it's very good. But I just had the thought as I was driving a load of stuff, I just thought, who am I now? Not in like a midlife crisis kind of a way, and not like a wacko kind of a way, but just kind of like, who do I want to be, and what do I want to do with this extra, not necessarily time, maybe extra focus. And that was the night that I found Shanda, and that is the night that I started on this journey over a month. It has only been a month, I can't believe it, watching Flosstube videos. I cannot tell you how many I watch a day. I will watch them as I stitch, but I love it. So again, 43 minutes, and I said I was going to keep it under 40. So there you go. That's me, and I just want to say that I hope you choose joy this week, and with our stitching and with our needle and thread. It is just such a great way to create beauty and loveliness. So thank you guys. God bless you.